after this. All right. Welcome to our Team Time Talks. We are so glad you're here, taking time out to grow you as well as your business. And welcome to you leaders as well. I think that's probably what I'm enjoying most about these Monday nights is being able to collaborate. And last week we heard Carrie share about Canva, and were you guys all blessed? I mean, did you feel like you got more confident in knowing, just how to dig in and try it? You can't break it. And so tonight we're going to hear from Shawna, and she's going to share with us how to use stories in your marketing, because March is all about marketing, and we're super glad to have you, Shawna. Thank you so much.
Okay, so I'm super excited to share this. So when I first joined LeBri, I was told to craft my story, and I kind of crafted a story. And I found as I was in home shows, I would share bits and pieces of it, but I really never completely grasped. I knew it helped me connect, but I didn't get it the same way as I could see it and then translate that into social media. So tonight I kind of want to share. I actually took a week-long course on crafting your story and different ways to share it. And I will also share that resource. If you want to join that group, you can join that group, because I'm still learning very much, not an expert, but I found some things that were really helpful for me. So I wanted to start with a little bit of why I think, why it's becoming more and more of a passion to me to learn to do this and how it can help each of us grow our business. So last week I met with a lady, it was last Tuesday, I met with a lady, and we had met a couple months before. I started a conversation about her fingernails. It was like a real quick 5-minute conversation at my kids' co-op. We talked about a couple crunchy things, natural things, and we became Facebook friends, kind of trying to figure out whose kids are whose kind of thing, more of a passing type thing. So that was a couple months ago. And then, she'd comment on a couple of my posts here and there, but I posted not too long ago and she commented, "Hey, I want to know more about the skincare stuff." So I messaged her on the side and we set up a time. Do you want to chat now? Do you want to chat next time we're in co-op? How do you want to do that? And when we met, it was really funny because we started kind of chatting. She said, every time I see you post, all I can think is there's that eczema lady. And I was like, she's like, "I can't believe I'm telling you this," but she's like, "I knew you did skincare, but I was just kind of like, eh." But at some point, she had heard me share my part of my story, which is my son's eczema, and it had clicked with her, and she had really connected to that. So that every time I posted anything, she thought, there's that eczema lady. I've never even had eczema, but that's how she connected with me, with that one part of my story. And so she started sharing her story, and her story was, and I didn't know this about her, but all of last year, she started developing severe boils that were all over and horrific. And she was doing all this to try to take care of it. And she had been to tons of dermatologists, and she had ended up clearing up a lot of it with diet, but she was still, and that's why she was interested. But I had no idea about her. And if I hadn't shared my story, we would have never connected in that way. And so that's just like a little example recently of how, and I share that story in little bits over and over and over. I don't have to tell everybody I meet my story. That it's too much. You don't want to tell everybody your whole life story. You want to learn to tell different bits of it so that it pulls in people that need your story. So that's kind of where, that's just ingrained that passion in me even more to refine my story. But part of that is you have to know some things that were interesting to me. Is one, that wasn't instant. It was months ago that we met. And then that slowly has built to the point that she came to me asking me, which is what we want. We want people to come to us because they understand what we're sharing. We don't want to push them away, but we want them to come to us. And then she's actually booked a party. She's super excited about trying the products and getting a whole bunch, and booked a party. And that's what we want. We want to create that emotional connection that brings people to us so that we could get to help them. Because that's what I want to do. I want to help people. But when I first started, if you're just like vomiting all this information, you're not helping as many people as you can through your story. So that's a little bit of my heart with this. To tell your story, one thing you have to realize, and this has taken a process with me, is you have to know your story and you have to know yourself. And that's all this discovering that we learn in the bride. And so it takes time. Like, I have different places where I just will journal down things as I think of them now that are helping me develop my story more intensely and in ways I can share more effectively. So you need to know who you are in ways that you can market. That's one side of it, is just kind of knowing who you are. And that will help you then know your story more and get more facets of it, so that you should have multiple stories that you can share at different times to connect different people. Part of my story, besides my son's eczema, was also how much I hated my skin and how much I wasn't taking care of myself. I don't necessarily always tell both of those, but those connect very differently with different people, but they're very much my story still. So that's the other thing, is you want to, like, sometimes I'll sit down with somebody and I'll tell them my whole story, but generally I'm sharing bits and pieces here and there. And that's kind of a learned thing. But the more you write down, and I have like a little workbook kind of thing that's going to help you kind of start seeing that. But it's good to know you. We sometimes forget as mamas who we are, and that what we have had happen to us can help other people and is important. So just kind of start knowing you're going to have to embrace that and share that. The other thing that's kind of important is that this was something I learned just recently that I thought was really important, is you want to share your highs and your lows. If you only are sharing your highs, it annoys people. Like, you want to be optimistic, but you don't want to be perfect. And you want to share your lows, but you don't want to be depressing, and you don't want to be Debbie Downer. So it's this mixture. And I think this is when people are doing it really well, and you sense it, but I never could put my finger on why some people came across so authentic. And it's this highs and lows where you take people through your journey, they connect, and then you bring them to a place of hope. And that's really where, when you're looking at each of these different areas of your life. So, my skin, my son's skin, the rhythm is, we were at a bad place. We were desperate. We hit rock bottom. We struggled. We found help. Here's hope for you. And there's a solution in there too. So it's this rhythm. And when you get that rhythm, then it's easy to take any of your stories, be realistic, not this false Instagram picture perfect, but still not this, I'm just here to drag you down kind of thing that none of us want either. So it's that rhythm. So that's kind of something, as you're starting to look at your stories, try to think of, when you're just starting, try to think of 5 highs and 5 lows in your life. And this was really emotional for me when I actually sat down and tried to think of my 5 highest moments and my 5 lowest moments. But that's going to give you a place to kind of really realize who you can be sharing with. Some of these may be related to skincare, some of these may not be as much. But we're not just sharing our story about skincare. We're sharing our story about the financial income opportunity. We're sharing it, part of my story of needing money helps me find hostesses, because I didn't have the money to buy the product. So it can be financial, it can be a lot of different things, but finding those 5 is a good place to start with. It's going to give you a good direction, and then look kind of for those rhythms in those. the other thing that's kind of important to realize is, so when you start thinking about that, that can start feeling really overwhelming because that can span a long period of time or be a lot of detail. So sometimes you may only have a minute or two, 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes to share. That's where you're going to start looking at what is probably going to impact this person the most. If they have kids and that's where when you ask questions, then you know which part of your story you're going to share. So you always want to ask some questions. You want to build a level of confidence with them and kind of bring them in. And then you can share the part that's going to connect with them. If they've never struggled with money or skin issues, then you're going to have to ask some more questions because most people have. But, like those questions are important so that you're sharing the right stories. But you don't have to share every little detail to connect with people. What you really want to look at once you find your 5 highs and your 5 lows, you're going to really want to look towards things that are emotionally connecting for people. So in my income story, I tell a lot about my headliner on my vehicle hanging down. People don't need to know exactly where we were financially. When your headliner is touching the top of your head, people connected with that. Like they remember that. And it was very much a part of my life I wanted to change. Not being able to trust my vehicle, those kind of things where you're sharing your story, but it's in a way that condenses it down. They don't need to know every nitty gritty detail. That if they've lived that, they've instantly connected with you. I know Holly Minzer shares the moment when she decided with the bride when she was spraying out the diaper. And every mom that did cloth diapers connected with that story. Like I was already signed up and I was like, I'd sign up again because I've sprayed out a diaper. It's those things, that you want to kind of try to think of. The lady that was sharing her story, she always tells how when they were struggling financially, they had to take a calculator and add up at the grocery store while they were putting stuff in their cart. Those kind of comments really help people understand where you're at, and it shares your heart without being super detailed. So when you're thinking of these lows and highs, always look for an emotional connection in that way more than the facts so much. I mean, it's emotion connected to a fact. You're still being honest and factual, which we always want to be, but that's the part of the story that connects to people. And you're there, like the lady in my story originally, that she thought of me as the eczema lady, me sharing that and his struggle of his skin not feeling like baby skin until labri. Those are kind of wordings that help really think about what that felt like in those moments of struggle. That's going to help pull you in. So those were some things that really helped me more with my story, kind of connect with people. And obviously, if you're telling your story in person, it's best because you can read that person and you can see when they're engaging and what's affecting them. But when we're doing it in social media, you still can share it in a way that when people come on and they're commenting and they're identifying with it, you can realize that you've hit a point where people are responding to that. Because it's going to be in a lot smaller snippets when you're sharing, but you can say it over and over in different times. That's the difference in social media, I feel like, is you are supposed to be repetitive with this in social media, so it becomes really clear to people there's a clarity there. Or when you're telling somebody in person, yes, you can engage them, but you may only have them 2 or 3 times. So there's a benefit in each one. You just kind of have to realize where you're at and what you're really working with. But that's something Julie, I can never say her last name, the Ignite Hustle lady, she says that it's good to be on repeat and get really clear about what that passion is. So as far as when you're working on your story, and this is what I'm going to share with each of the leaders to share in the group, but there's kind of a questionnaire that I'm going to go through to kind of also help, but I'm going to send this out. But you want to first think about your backstory a little bit and tell your past and who you were before. So, in a small story, I could say my son had really bad eczema. That's where I was. That's not my whole backstory. I can go back to my backstory, or financially, this is where we were. So in each of your stories, you might have a different starting place of your 5 highs and your 5 lows, or what you're trying to, it could be your LeBri testimonial or whatever story you're trying to communicate with, but kind of where you were, your desire, what you wanted. So with my son's eczema, it was, I wanted him to have skin that we didn't have to struggle with, where I was afraid what would touch his skin. Your external struggle is what was happening on the outside. We were struggling with his skin issues. The internal struggle is also something you want to write about. So I had lack of peace. I had, emotional stress of trying to figure this out for him, just constantly looking for something, always in my mind, racking my mind. How can I help my baby? So external is what's happening on the outside. Internal, you have a major obstacle, or when you kind of hit bottom, when this kind of comes to like, okay, I'm not taking this anymore, or something has to change kind of moment. That realization of when you found that thing that was going to change, whether you decided to do something different. Mine was when I decided to try LeBri with his skin. So then you have this moment when you're going to do something else. Then you have a new plan. And this is kind of where you go from the despair into this plan, into this realization of what I'm going to try. Sometimes there's still a problem that you have to deal with. So it may be, we needed more of the product, or, I realized more people needed this, something where there's kind of like this little bit more turmoil, and then kind of your achievement, or what your end result was, and your transformation. So like I said, that's kind of a lot, but there's a form and it's a little more filled out with that, where you can take and you can use the same form for all the different stories you're kind of wanting to tell, or maybe do your whole story. And then you'll learn to break that up as it fits that situation. One thing that's really also important that I never did is at the very end, you want to have a call to action when you're telling your story or when you're doing it. We hear that all the time for Facebook posts and, draw engagement and that kind of thing. But even when you're just telling your story, once you get them to the hope, you don't just walk off. You give them choices or direction next, because that's what their mind's waiting for. You've drawn them through this whole thing, and then you're just like, and I'm good. Okay, bye-bye. You want them to know, these are the products that I now offer, or let's get you some samples to try, or, because you've asked them questions, they have an issue. Let's look at, let's try LeBri and see if that can help you financially, or, whatever that thing is you're going for, you have to have a call to action to have the most powerful impact from your story. And that was something I was so amazed when I did this class. I was like, never had a call to action. Or not very often. In a party setting, I did, because it was on the little cue cards what I was supposed to do. But in a lot of my posts and a lot of times when I shared my story, I just kind of leave it. And you can have a call to action without being pushy. That was the other thing I didn't realize. It's, it's just giving them some things of, I can help, if you want, I can help you. I can tell you the 5 products I would most recommend for your issue, or I can tell you the products that help my son, or, I can do a free skin consult. Whatever you want to make, you need to know your call to action though, when you're going into it, so that it's kind of there. So you want that to be part of it. And it actually feels nicer at the end. Now that I've tried it a few times, it actually feels nicer and a better close. It's like that final piece of the hope, as opposed to just, I'm good, but you're on your own kind of thing. So that was really an important part to kind of figuring out your story. A couple other things that can be helpful when you're, besides the 5 highs and the 5 lows, is think about some things. This is kind of more with the to know yourself, but it helps you know your story a little bit. Is write down some things. So write down some things that make you smile or make you happy or that you're passionate about. And then make a list of things that are really important to you. So they're kind of separate things. A lot of times they may merge. Some are going to be a little more fun ways to share. But to me, when you have these, it's easier to weave this into your story in social media. But even in a party setting or in a networking setting or a vendor setting, when you're comfortable talking about these things about yourself, it helps with that connection process more quickly and weaving that then into your story. So with my son's eczema, when I comfortably weave in that I was a very crunchy mom, that was buying my raw goat milk and doing my cloth diapers and those kind of things, it builds that authenticity and it creates that connection. So for me, some of my things are I love travel, nature, my family. I love finding good deals. I love Enneagram. I love self-care. I love aloe. Like those are just things that are me, and those are going to be part of my story. Things that are important to me is God, homeschooling my kids, living a very simple, like enjoying the moment, being debt free. But those things weave into my story. The fact that I want to be debt free is very much a part of my financial LeBry story. The traveling part is very much a part because that's what I wanted to do with my money. That was my first really big why. Those kind of things, know it, but you have to stop and actually know those things about yourself. And a lot of times we don't. We're mom and we're tired and we're busy and we may know those things about our kids, but do we know those things easily where we can weave them into our story so that people can really start to see and then identify with that, like my cousin messaged me and she was like, you guys like to travel, right? You have a travel trailer the other day. Like she thought that of me because I share it so much on Facebook. Like we don't live close together. Not the cousin that's on here, a different cousin, but like it makes you also a person of influence. When people want to know things, they're going to come to you because you've shared your passions in your heart. And that it all weaves together in this really pretty way of getting to be somebody that's helping and influencing people and making the world a better place. And it completely takes all of the icky, pushy, salesy out of it, which is amazing to me because that's what I want. I want to help people. That's what, I hear it over and over in the girls on my team and the girls on here. We don't want to be pushy, but if you're not telling anybody and you're not sharing your story, you're also missing people you could be helping. Because I guarantee that lady heard my story on one of my lives that I hated doing on my personal page. Because I used to hate going live on my personal page, but that's where I helped her. So now I don't mind it as much because that's what I think before I go on. I think, who am I going to be able to help with doing this? And so those are kind of it weaves in that branding who you are and knowing your story and being able to pull out that story and really, remembering it. And it takes practice, but once your heart gets in there, it really starts to flow. I know the first time I talked with Lisa, she talked to me about, she had 4 kids and she had homeschooled and like, boom, we were connected. Like she could get rid of it. But that was because she shares her story beautifully. She already does a lot of these things just naturally, but it's something that for me, I had to learn who I was to then and why I would want to share it with people. And it's something I'm still working on. I'm still figuring out different stories and figuring out why would I tell somebody, about this and how can I help them? And I still have pieces I don't share, Like I'm a pretty private person. So like, it's going to be layers too, that you're going to like have to realize there's probably layers there, but it's like therapy. It's a form of therapy. So that is, I think, most of my content that I wanted to really share, kind of to get everybody started. The idea is that I think with Lisa was saying, we're going to do, everybody's going to work on their 5 highs and their 5 lows and kind of work on this form and see when we come back, we're going to, I'm not sure exactly how we're going to work on this, but we're going to, those that want to share or maybe ask questions, because you're going to have questions as it comes. And as we hear other people's stories, you'll figure out ways to do that. But it's really important once you start doing this to actually walk through sharing some of these stories with people. I know right after I did this class, they were wanting me. So I went in and I shared on my team page, and I felt like I had already told everybody on my team page my story, but I shared a bigger version of it. And there were people on there, they had no idea. And I was like, need to share more, you know? So those are kind of some of my, that's me.
So Shawna, what's our call to action? You've brought us to a place of hope.
You have to write out your story. So you're going to have the form to fill out. See, I'm a call to action. So you're going to fill out your form with at least one of your stories. The form that you'll get, we'll probably post it with this recording when we post it in our team pages. And then like 5 to 10 things about you that are like, whether you want to call them hobbies or things that make you smile, things that are important to you. Do those, write out at least 1 to 2 stories in the form that we have, and write out your 5 highs and lows. That's a lot. Like that's a lot of soul searching right there. But, and then if you can be, if anybody wants to be ready to share some, I love hearing people's stories. I mean, don't you love hearing people's stories? And like, especially when they go from that low to that high and you're just, it empowers. I mean, that's what this month is all about, is being fearless and fabulous. And I was like, this is perfect, because you kind of got to be fearless, but it's so fabulous to share and hear all that.
Wow. Are you guys inspired? Are you guys like, so let me just sum it up, because what you said it in so many beautiful examples and ways is what we as people, as moms, as women, what we don't want to come across, whether we're talking to someone in person, whether we're doing it on social media, whatever the means is, we don't want to become the salesy, right? The pushy sales lady, like, oh, there she goes again. You know, you see someone and they turn and go the other way, you know, to try to avoid a conversation with you because they know you're going to bring up LeBri. You know, we don't want to be that, right? So stories are the answer, because we show up as authentic, real people, not laying out all of our nitty gritty underwear for the whole world to see, right? I mean, you don't have to share every last argument that you've had with your significant other. It's okay, right? But the little pieces, and I think what I was reminded, the couple of stories that came bubbling to the top of mine, I can see the picture. I can see the picture of the plexiglass that my husband put on the back of our van when we were going to take our vacation, because we could not afford, and we were going out west with it. And we had a bungee cord tied. The back gate was it didn't work anymore. So we had it bungeed and attached to one of the car, headrest hooks. And then when we wanted to get, the cooler out of the back, we had to send a kid over the back to unlatch the gate. Okay. This was my life before LeBri. But but like then you take them, just like she said, you take them, but you create that picture. You might not have had a van with plexiglass and the bungee cord holding the back gate shut, but we all have that low. We all have that point where, like, yeah, this was something had to give. Like we needed a van bad, like yesterday. And LeBri was that for us. So then let's segue to, so what if we don't have that story? I haven't earned a car, I haven't earned a trip, I haven't even earned the financial money that I really want. How do you craft a story to still bring hope if you haven't experienced it to the level you think you should or would to really have a story? You got an answer, Shawna?
Sometimes you can craft other people's, especially if it's a one you can identify with. So, I haven't had rosacea, but I've had customers with rosacea. So if I'm talking with somebody with rosacea, I can say, my friend, she had it where, like, I know a lot of times Charity will tell, and I tell her story too, her friend's face that she would cry when she washed her makeup off at night because it hurt so bad. And in 3 days, she wasn't crying when she washed her makeup off. That's really powerful. It's not my story, but it's a powerful story of somebody I'm connected to. So you can pull other people's stories, especially I think when you're keeping them kind of short and they're relatable to you. My exec bungeed her car together and had plexiglass, and now she's on her third free LeBri car, and she will never bungee another car together, like that kind of thing. I share your story as far as having worked through LeBri with cancer. I haven't had to stop my business, but you have. So when somebody has to stop, so the more you get to know other women and you hear their stories, I think you can pull it's best if it's your story, and you're going to have some great stories. If you find your 5 highs and your 5 lows, that's going to help you find your people. But when they aren't there, then there are, LeBri has those stories and you can learn them. And there's some main themes, needing money, needing time, needing, so that's where you can pull there. So I would say you can still pull other people's stories and just share them until you have them. Especially once you have that deep desire for that thing, it's still going to transfer as authentic, I feel like. If you believe it, it's going to be authentic. If I didn't believe it could fix their skin and I'm sharing this story, that's not going to work. But I've seen it. I know it just as much as if I had it. So that's where I think you can do there. But I'm open to other ideas.
Any other ideas? I think you're right. Borrowing people's stories is, I didn't always have that as my story, right? It took years for me to develop more stories. And I think the other thing that I think of is people are attracted to people with solutions, and so if we can, even if we haven't experienced $1,000 a month, but that's our goal and that's our ambition and that's our passion to help more people, and join me in that, I think that draws people in when they can see someone is going places because their passion is leading the way, and it's out of a desire to help others have the same. That's where it's at. And you don't have to have experienced $1,000 a month to be able to have that part of your story when you're sharing, like this is where my heart is.
Yeah. It's that energy and that belief. When you have those together.
Yep, totally.
People do believe that.
Yep.
The other thing with stories is it comes across in Zoom, it comes across in social media. You can use it in a networking, a one-on-one, a vendor event. There's so many different areas in our business that you can tweak these a little bit to make them really powerful and helpful in a wide range of things. Once you build them and know them really well, they just kind of pour out of you. And then, like I said, I'm excited because it is something it works in all parties. And once you see a story and you start looking at some people that are doing really well, you realize that's what they're doing. They know their story, they're very bold in their story, and they're repeating it over and over and over, and it's attracting their people.
Hey, you guys hear me okay? Driving, so I just want to make sure my connection is good.
You're a little wobbly.
Hold on a second.
I'm so sorry. Thank you there. Just for something more profound that you said, and I hope everybody can hear me. But it says that
I think you're gonna have to put it in the chat. I can't hear you.
Yeah. Charity,
Okay.
sorry, we can't understand you enough. So if you can put it in the chat, that would be better. Because we do want you to share, but we can't understand it. So questions. Oh, Wendy, something to add?
Yeah, I was telling my hairstylist about LeBri, and she wasn't interested. She said, "You just have good skin." Like, of all the things that are wrong with me, I have excellent DNA for skin, you know. So, but there's a lady that was my curves coach, and I know I probably told you this before. She moved out to Texas, and she's 66 years old, small and wiry, and she'll win marathon races in her age. Her idea of going out and having fun is running 10 miles a day. I mean, I can't even walk 10 miles a day right now. But the thing is, the sun has not been nice to her. So when I called and got a hold of her and was trying to see how tactful I could be, because I mean, she's perfectly fit. She's super healthy. She probably lived to be 100 years old, but she has tons of really deep wrinkles. Well, she said, "You know what? You're right. But the stuff I use is expensive and it doesn't do anything." So based on my say so alone, she's in Texas, I'm in Arizona. She bought $200 worth of LeBri without trying a sample. And then we were trying to put her order in and it was not working. And then I said, "Well, I'll just do it tomorrow." Well, the following day, I ended up saving her like $2 or $3 because a sale went in on something she wanted overnight. So that it worked. But I had sent her I sent her a picture of the mask. I can't believe I didn't mention it. She said, "I can't spend another dime." So masks were like cheap last year, 1 month. So I had one and I boxed it up and mailed it to her free of charge. Said, "Here you go, on me." Well, you know what? She said the mask was her favorite thing. And now whenever she's on Facebook, people are like, "Eileen, you look younger." She hasn't told why yet. She says a lot of thank yous. And she's even told me I see the difference, and she's tried some of the different serums. So Eileen being a powerhouse, now her face is making her happier too now. And it makes me really happy. And then another person who's a friend who lives not too far, her son came into town and he's 31 and he's driving her nuts. And she hadn't seen him in a long time, and all they did was fight the whole time he was here. So she said she was crying so bad one night, and then you know what? She went and got her eye gel out, and everything was fantastic. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So that's kind of a good story to say, well, if you have adult children that are driving in, because adult children are the worst. You can't do anything with. I mean, if you don't have any, stand by. They're worse than teenagers in some respects because they're running their life. They got their own money, their own home. They live in a better place than you do and drive better cars. They think you're going to tell them anything? No, not anymore. Your time's up, Mom, But yeah, her kid thinks that, he just knows everything. So yeah, she decided the eye gel was going to get her over the parenting adult blues.
Yeah.
So, and I really do like the idea of because when you're talking about somebody else's story that's positive, it's not like, oh, it's not all about me.
Yep.
you know what I mean?
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
if anybody's been accused of it always be anything about me, it's usually me that gets accused of that. I was a middle child that was ignored a lot, so that's my excuse for that. But anyway, I know your presentation's fantastic. That's what I wanted to add. So thank you so much. I have several takeaways from this. Thank you for letting me speak up, and I'm going to mute myself so somebody else can talk. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Yes, sharing others' stories. Yes, yes, yes. So, your homework, did you catch their call to action to do some digging? Because next week, I would like to break into breakout rooms so that it's a little more comfortable sharing your story with 3 people as opposed to, 20. And then we'll come back and maybe have the highlights, or maybe have a few reshare from each of the groups, kind of thing. But it's going to be important that you do this work, because it's not just for us, and you don't want to show up and make up something on the fly. You kind of want to have it crafted, because a story is better if it's crafted and it's not, going off on this tangent, and my van was, purple, and Nathaniel had taken a rock one day and decided to wash the car with the rock. I mean, that story, that part doesn't have anything to do, you know what I mean? Like stay with your focus, because like Shawna said, you only have social media, what they say, the 30 seconds, and if you don't catch them, they're gone. Like, you're not going to have them for a long time. So writing your story, practicing your story, even if next week you have it written down and you use your notes to share your story, totally fine. But that's how we want to get better at it, and sharing it so that we can help each other in a positive kind of critiquing way. Because the other point that I think Shawna really kind of reiterated is that emotional connection. If I just talk about my van and I don't talk about how embarrassing it was, and how you parked at the end of the lot because you didn't want anyone to know you were the one that was walking to that van, then people can relate, right? I mean, that little 30-second sentence pulled you in to go, oh yeah, I've been there. Like, my kids wearing, clothes that had holes in them, or whatever your story is, they could relate because of the emotion. Emotion sells. If there's just facts, it will not cause someone to take action. We are emotional beings, and emotion is what causes us to make a decision. Every time. And it connects our hearts, like that's what we're connected to. So that's where we're going. Other takeaways, comments? Are you guys excited about this? This is like we're launching into marketing, like Julie Ciardi, and her last name Ciardi. It's not as hard. Legalbo. I could never pronounce Legalbo. And now I look at it, I'm like, what was my problem? I'm like, that is just Legalbo. I mean, easy. So I still can get you Ciardi. So she says, when it comes to social media, that's, your Facebook, your Instagram, all of that, we need to show up as humans. And that's a mouthful right there, right? Show up as a human. That means the good, the bad, the highs, the lows, but be real, but don't air your laundry for the whole world either. Like have a purpose, have that call to action, because that's going to keep your focus in the store. If you're just, venting, well, sorry, I'm probably going to scroll past, I don't do that. I don't have time to hear a vent. But if I know that the vent is going to lead to hope and something that might be applicable to me, well, yeah, I'm going to tune in and listen. So, comments, questions about crafting your stories. Betty says, I'm super excited. I know, right? And we're going to learn so much about who we are, which can be a little hard if that's not your, but taking the time to do it. Yes. Awesome. Jody's going to share her story. Dun, 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 dun. Love it. Okay. Well, Shawna, thank you. Thank you so much. Don't think you can leave this meeting early because we have some people to celebrate. We just had the shortest and some of the most exciting things happened in the shortest month of the year. And I didn't ask Betty in advance, but Betty, you don't even have to come on if you don't want to, because you might have kids, flying from the chandeliers at your house. But I would love to hear.
Lisa, I have two Bettys.
Oh,
and if I'm thinking right, the Betty that we still have with us is Betty Miller. And then my other Betty, I think she might have had to jump off. My other Betty is Betty Philpott.
Okay. Yes. So now I get it. So I was thinking of Betty Philpott. So Michelle, in a nutshell, can you share the exciting win that Betty had yesterday?
Yes. So Betty knew that her shows were kind of lining up for her to get a show bonus, the Show Me the Money bonus that we can earn, any month. And so it was really cool because about 2 days before the last day of the month, she knew that she was going to be able to hit the bonus at 10% for all the volume and all those shows. But then a couple days before the very last day of the month, she told me, she said, I'm just $980 away from it going from 10% to 15% in one bonus. And for those of you that have never earned that before, that can take you from a minimum of $350 as that bonus to $750 as a minimum for that bonus. So she was like, I think I'm going to see what I can do. And I was like, see what you can do. And so she just started getting on the phone and sending messages and just connecting with people like crazy, seeing if anybody needed anything. She did a couple of little spur of the moment, special things for customers. And then she also was doing a fundraiser for a friend that's starting cancer treatments. And so literally last night there was like 1 hour left. And she's like, I'm only $111 away. And I was just like, there is no way that you are going to miss out on that much more in your bonus only being that far away. So anyway, we put our heads together, and so she sure enough did. This is the first time she's ever earned a Show Me the Money bonus. And the entire time she's been a consultant, and she didn't just earn it at 5%, which is so amazing and so awesome whenever you achieve that. And she didn't just earn it at 10%, which is super, super amazing when you achieve that for the first time. No. She skipped all the way up to boom, the big one. So, and she pulled in over $980 in sales in 24 hours. So that goes to show you, when you have something that like you really need it. And I don't know, I think she'd be okay with me sharing this. They had just had a really big bill because her doggy got extremely sick And this was the doggie that had helped her through some really, really, really challenging times personally over the years. And he had gotten really sick, and she'd had taken to the vet and put him down. So they had, you know how expensive vets are. So she needed that bonus, and God was good, and he rewarded her work, and he rewarded her, her willingness to just really put her heart into it. And he got her there. It was amazing.
Mhm. Awesome. Yes, inspiring. LeBri is, I mean, you have to have the passion. You have to know where you're going, but all the pieces are there. Like all of the rewards are right there. And, one thing that Betty has is passion. Like, and here she is helping, a friend with her cancer treatments. It's all about helping people and serving them and finding what they need, and then seeing if LeBri, through your story, might be able to help them. It's beautiful. Beautiful. Okay, I know some of you else have some good wins. Anybody else? Come on. I'm looking at you. Wonder who thinks it's them. Come on. Wins. What are you excited about? Do I have to name drop? Come on.
I'll go.
Okay, good.
Okay. So, I did my first vendor event this weekend.
Hi, guys.
And it went really good. Thank you, Lisa, also for all your help.
You bet.
But yeah, so I was super excited. I got one girl I'm going to talk to later on tonight, who is interested in the income opportunity. And I think I sent out like 3 or 4 samples, like all across the United States, like one's in New York, the other one's in like Illinois. And I'm super stoked because I feel like the network growing, and I can see myself like with my lives and just the things that I've been doing, like the passion coming through, like I'm able to share my story and have people relate. So yay, it's super exciting.
Yay! That is a huge win. In 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 3 weeks, I think. I'm going to be specifically talking about vendor events. They are a powerful way to meet new people. New equals growth, period, right? Lori Langell, should be like her poster. New equals growth. We've been hearing that. But with a pandemic, no in-home parties, you can only bug your current customers and ask for referrals so much, right? And then you start to feel yucky about it. Vendor events, they are amazing. Amazing. So I can't wait to tell you more. And Cassandra's just like, all right, I'm going to jump in and find a vendor event and go. So good for you. Passion, girl. I love it. Julie, do share.
Me, Julie?
Yes.
I did an online vendor event. I was just going to throw this out there, an online vendor event a few weeks ago. And I did the guess the samples in the bowl kind of game.
Mhm.
And I reached out, there was like 60 that responded to it. I reached out to all of them for samples and sent out over 30 sets of samples. So now I've followed up with all of them to say, hey, I see you've gotten your samples. And now I'm giving them time to try their samples before following up again.
Sweet.
So
Awesome. So here's a question. Do you have, people are all about carrots, like we as people, not carrots you eat, but the little prizes, the little incentives to take action. So have you given any thought to, are you going to offer any incentive or, any deadline, order by this or order a skincare set, and like anything like that? Because that has helped me to get people to actually take action, is the carrots. Have you
okay.
given any
That's my
thought?
next thing is I don't know how to bring these people in exactly.
Okay.
It's hard because if you go to them and say, hey, obviously you need to check with them next about ordering, but you don't want to turn them off by just coming out with that.
So do you have a Facebook group?
Yes.
Good. Are they in it?
No, I haven't gotten to that point.
They need to get in your Facebook group, because that's where you can love on them. You can gently be talking about the products, not like in your face, this is for you kind of thing, but have a community where they're going to get those warm, like you want to have that vendor kind of vibe going on in your VIP group or your customer group or your potential customer group, so that you continue to have them there. And then think about, what is going to be best for them. Like, I like the good, better, best. Like, good would be to buy, and maybe you want to offer them an incentive. Did they pay for their samples, or did you send them for free?
I did.
Okay, so that might be another thing, moving forward. You might want them to pay for their samples. I give them the choice of one free sample or a 7-day sample set. And when I get the people that really aren't that interested, oh, send me the free one, right? I mean, but the ones that really want, and I obviously show the value of it, then they end up spending $7. They PayPal me $7, and I go in and order it. And then I have their email, their phone, and their all the juicy goodies that we all want. So that, not that I can add them in necessarily as a customer. I mean, if I'm ordering it from LeBri, yep, then I'll enter them as a customer. But you want that information so that you can be communicating with them. You can be
Right.
texting them, you can be doing all the other things, plus getting them in your customer group. But the
And you
good,
So would you offer your Facebook group before you really do anything more with them?
yeah, yep, because that's, I mean, what do you think, Shawna?
I was gonna say, I would at least see if they'll accept a friend request, because then they get to know, like, and trust you. They get to hear your story. Because if your stories aren't just about LeBri, then when you're posting in Facebook, they're knowing all of these things. And just like that lady, she wasn't in my VIP group, but just being in my, as a friend, like, obviously you want to move them to your VIP group, but some people don't, like, they don't know you well enough to know they want in your group. But if they're your friend, then they'll get to realize you're not pushy, but you'll pull out the ones that are your person, and they'll want in your group. But it's that subtle reminder when you go live, or, if you're once a week talking about LeBri, that's once a week, you're kind of touching them with more information to where they're realizing, if you have testimonials in your albums, a lot of people will go look at people's pictures when they've just become friends with them. Well, if you have an LeBri album in there, they can go and see that and that kind of stuff. So I would at least see if you can get them as friends on Facebook, if nothing else, for sure.
And Lisa, one thing that I remember hearing someone do was they did have them buy the 7-day trial pack, but they told them that if they placed an order, I can't remember if they said if you buy a set
Mhm.
Within, I think it was like 2 or 2.5 weeks,
Mhm.
then your cost will be will be less the amount of your trial set that you bought. Like they give them that discount at the time that they go ahead and commit
Mhm.
to buying the skincare set so that they can continue on their routine, and explain to them about, the return policy and all that, so that they know they don't have anything to lose, but to go ahead and purchase that so that you can save the $7.95 or whatever that they had spent on their travel set or their trial set.
Mhm.
That's kind of a call to action, and has them go ahead and order instead of just like sitting there and thinking about it.
Yep. Yeah. So put a little, brainstorm thinking into, like even when I message someone, I have in my mind, what is the objective? Like, what do I want them to do? Where am I moving them towards? Even if they don't say yes to buying, what's my objective in having that conversation?
That's where you can start too. If they say, "Oh, I love it," I always would say, well, then there's three options. And then you list the three options. And when you're giving people options, it doesn't feel pushy. It's a natural, if you love it, obviously you wouldn't want to not tell them how they could get it. And maybe they don't want to buy, but that's different than like, here's my link to shop. You say you can earn some money by sharing. If you know some people, I can help you get it for free and discounted, or I can help you pick out the best set for your situation.
Mhm.
So when I did a lot of samples through Facebook, I liked that 3 option type asking questions
Mhm.
feel. And I will say, I had people that I offered samples to that as they became my Facebook friends, some of them it was almost a year, but they are consultants now. So it isn't always instant that those have returned, but if you can bring them in and get to know them and know you,
Mhm.
like I said, I have multiple consultants and customers now that it literally was 6 months from the time I gave them their sample set. But because we were friends and they saw that repetitive, so
Yep.
not that you want it to take that long, but sometimes it does. But it's better than just when they're not your friends and they're not answering texts and they don't have a way to know you more.
Mhm. Yep. Does that help, Julie?
Yes, thank you very much.
Yes. The know, love, and trust factor. That's what it's all about. Honestly, you're just building that relationship. And I honestly don't give samples when I'm messaging someone and they say yes to samples, it comes with a friend request. Like I have tons of friends on my Facebook, friend list that aren't my friends, but they are contacts and they're getting to know, love, and trust me because we're Facebook friends. So sometimes we have to expand our thinking of what a Facebook friend is when we're in business, if that makes any sense. And I think we can have up till 5,000 friends or something like that. So it's not like, you're going to run out.
And you can always hide them where they can still see you if it becomes an issue with certain
Yeah.
content. I don't do that often, but there are some people. I actually had a girl tell me that when I was, she wanted to have a party, and I was like, well, then to have an online party, we'll have to be Facebook friends. And she was like, oh, I'm real colorful. You can just hide me. We're still Facebook friends. She sees my posts. Hers are completely hidden. She was good with that. She still orders.
Nice. Awesome, awesome. Well, we went over, so I want to be respectful of your time, but we will post in each of the leader groups the recording of tonight, so you can re-listen to it if you need to. I think this would be a good one to re-listen to, as well as the form of how to craft your story. And then next week, I hope all of you come back. That'll be the real test, because we'll share in a small group setting one of our stories with each other, which I think will be really, really powerful and help bond us as women and consultants all the more. So thank you, and have a blessed weekend. Happy March. Tomorrow, Learn to Earn, Fear and Fabulous on the corporate website. Corporate. Invite your peeps. All right.